Okay, thank you for having me here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we have done with the questionnaires in Finland and what we have learned so far and what we will fix next. Shortly about me, I'm Joonas Mäkinen. I'm the product owner of our forms and calculator platform, which we usually call as a focal forms and calculators. In the DevDays in publishing company. And I'm also a board member of HL7 Finland. So the learning objectives, as mentioned, I'm shortly walking you through what we have, and then our thoughts about what has worked and maybe where we want to improve. Here, I made 3 categories here for what kind of content we have implemented. One is the symptom checkers. I will show it to you quickly. And then we have clinical calculators. We have, I think, over 100 calculators and clinical forms, and we are now in the process of transferring those to questionnaires to FHIR format. Then we have administrative forms like referrals and medical statements. And always when relevant, everything is pre-populated. Well, except for the symptom checkers, but that's not implemented by us. So we only make the questionnaire, we make the clinical content, and then we have this Oma Olo portal. It's a national portal where you can go to assess your condition and do a symptom check on whatever your symptom is, and then you will get feedback what you should do next. And in the background, we also provide activity recommendations, like whether this is urgent and if there's some lab test that should be ordered. The most popular form, obviously, was COVID form, which is not in use anymore. Maybe I'll just quickly show also the FinRisk. This is one example of the calculators we have it's really useful that it's pre-populated. You can just click a link in a health record system and it opens pre-populated everything here. But then if you fill up a form, sometimes it doesn't make much sense to. I hope you saw something there, or did you?
No.
You didn't see anything?
No.
Great. Nobody said anything. Wonderful. Okay, I'm just gonna stop this presentation for a bit. Now you probably see something. Okay, so these are one of the calculators. In the background, it's a questionnaire, and then we have this Oma Olo portal, which is a national portal where we have the symptom checks. Here, the user interface is not ours, but the content is. And then we have all kinds of forms available, which then pre-populate whenever relevant. Okay, then back to the presentation. So, of course, for this everything we needed the tools. So, and we started so early that we actually made everything, pretty much everything ourselves. We made a standard question database, and I will explain to you about it a little bit. And then we have a visual editor and a testing tool. And of course, we need a logic engine to process the responses. And then for our own use, we have the rendering service that we can actually use the questionnaires. And then to the learnings, I think one of the important ones is that if you start early, you probably will have to work a little bit more than otherwise. because I think it was actually 2016 when we started thinking of how to do this. And the standard was not very mature at the moment, and there was some gaps in the display logic at that time. Like one example is the enable when, which we made an extension for, and now it's of course part of the R4. And SDC, I think it was there, but it wasn't in the Europe. I think it was a US thing or something. At least I don't have a clue about. I didn't have a clue about that at that time, and any authoring rendering tools that were probably on the market were not for us. So we had to make a lot ourselves, and of course that all this, it means that we will have technical debt, and but in the other hand we have a working system, so you have to choose. So the question database or standard question database, the idea is that we have a way to store the questions so that they are independent of the questionnaires. So basically we just build the questionnaires in the visual editor by putting together all the whatever questions we like to have in the form, and then we add a description and the logic. That's it. And of course there's for every question you can do the basic things like adding mapping to codings and min max values, data types, and so on. I think one of the pros obviously is that we have a systematic way for maintaining and creating the questions. So that's cool, and we don't have to redefine those for every questionnaire. And that's useful for some questions like age, gender, blood pressure, those that we repeat very often. Then the cons. In reality, it turns out that there's rather small number of questions that are actually repeating across the forms. So we have a database that has hundreds of questions that are used only once. And maybe, I'm not sure if that has been worth the trouble or not to have this kind of database. Of course, there has to be some way to manage the questions, so yeah. And it's not SDC, so that's obvious con. Then this is a recent experiment that we re-implemented the symptom checkers, not all the questionnaires, but the symptom checkers as with FHIR shorthand, and it worked great. We got good performance. We got a nice testability. And I think it's like 100 times or 1,000 times faster than the previous version. And it's really great from the developer perspective. And maybe we will stop maintaining our own visual editor. Maybe this is like the point where we can stop using an visual editor. But what we still need, we will always need the visual presentation of the form. You can't do forms without really having the visualization there. The translations are still something we struggle with, and still I don't think we are quite happy with the ideas we have at the moment. It's not ready. So how we do it at the moment is that the translations are their individual questionnaire resources, and then all the multi-choice questions there are represented as a single code system. And I think the approach, a better approach could be this that was at least in 2021 DevDays was presented by René Spronk, that the translation of the answer options would be value sets, and that makes more sense. But still, I think. Is there like best practice? I would like to know if you have an idea. Like, is there a commonly accepted way to do it that always works? Then one thing, this is like less technical, but something to be aware of in the EU is the regulation. I don't know how this works in the US, but I assume it's not this strict, because at the moment I think it's crazy and it's causing a lot of burden to the healthcare system. I think we have thousands of illegal forms, clinical forms in the EU at the moment. Because if it calculates anything, I mean anything, and if it's for clinical decision making, it's probably like class 2A medical device. So potentially BMI calculator can be a medical device. That's like borderline thing, because is it like clinical decision making, or is it like personal well-being? I don't know. But this is a challenge for us. We have a medical device class 2A, so we can do it, but it's still a lot of work. And then there are some cases like mental health, very popular form, PDI. It has one question about thoughts about suicide. And because of that one question, the notified body thinks that it's class 2B. And that would mean that we would have to like raise the classification. So, yeah, as a result, there's I think there is no legal version of that form in Finland in use at the moment, or maybe in the EU. I don't know. Maybe someone has it. So, my recommendation here is don't do it. Don't go there. We did, and it's well, it's interesting, and it's important, though. So, our next steps, SDC. I think it's you just discussed about that. I think it's very useful. The pre-population we do is it's manual work, so it's not very like effective, and while now we have a Smart on FHIR support also, we would really need this SDC to work. And also we are exploring the use of CRMI, and that's like, sounds like perfect for us. And also, we are now looking that if we could replace the current authoring visualization tools with something else. That maybe there is no need to maintain our own anymore. So, as a summary, early adoption can be laborious. The translations, we are still looking for the best practice. The standard question database may or may not be a good idea. I just wanted to share this concept we have, and then the medical device regulation, be aware, be warned. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for a great talk. What strategy will you be pursuing to get rid of a technical debt? Have you had some thought about it?
Experimental strategy. To rewrite the symptom checkers, that's like I think that's the first step. That we tried and saw that okay, this approach works, and now we can start looking at how maybe we can revamp our authoring process, and yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for your talk. I was wondering, could you please briefly explain how do you tackle the translation problem? Like imagine you have a one questionnaire in 3 languages. How do you store it and what's the best practice there?
We have the translations are stored in our own database, and then we compile those as it's separate files for the code system, and then the translations for the different languages. Or does that answer? Yeah, okay.
Thank you. I'm totally in love with the idea of having this questionnaire library for reusable questions, in particular when you start to introduce SDC, because then the definition of an item can be like 20 lines of code to run a query and FHIR path and whatnot. And I think that's when reusability becomes really interesting. We are currently looking at the suggestion in the SDC spec to use assembled questionnaires. Is that what they are called? I'm trying to think of it. Assemble? Yeah. Where you basically you basically use another questionnaire to populate an item in a questionnaire. And we were currently thinking about basically just having questionnaires that only contain one item, but you can then use that to assemble your questionnaire. Is that something that you are considering?
Yes, absolutely. That has been the idea for years, but then we had a project in Finland to have this personal archive, like national personal archive for data and we have all the specs also for that. Well, we do have it, but it's so complex to take in use that it's not actually used that much. And the idea was that, like these symptom checkers, those results would be saved to that personal archive, so that whenever you feel something else, or maybe you refill some form for a follow-up, it will like check for like suitable data from the server. Yeah. And yeah, we want to do that now.
Yeah, we do too. Let's keep in touch.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Another question. What is your test setup for all this? Yeah, I guess you have a lot of vendors implementing these questionnaires, and after that, they are delivering the responses back. How do you test that they conform with the standard?
Well, actually, these questionnaires we have at the moment, only the symptom checkers are used like externally, and the prefill works through our clinical decision support system. So that's the part we validate, that the connection between the CDS and the health record system is valid, works in the correct way. So then we can trust that the data that comes out of that should be correct in the questionnaire as well. So that's a work in process at the moment, work in progress, because now that we rewrite everything, all the questionnaires. So there's maybe you can come to talk with us if you want to share ideas, because we have our developers here that know a lot of the ideas how to do it in the future. Would be nice to share thoughts.
Hey, Joonas. How does pre-population work for the questionnaires? Do you what Simone was describing? Do you have like FHIR queries that are embedded within the questionnaires that run to pre-populate, or how does that work?
It doesn't use FHIR queries. That's the solution at the moment. So, but we have Smart on FHIR support now, and now we want to build on that. So, based on SDC in future. But now it's a prefill based on what we get from the CDS, which uses our own format, but we can repopulate it forward it to the form.
Have you done any research on whether adding pre-population logic to your questionnaire would also count as calculation and put you in the dangers of being a medicinal product?
I have no plans of doing that kind of research. There are questions that are better not to be asked. Yeah, but that's true. Like body mass index. If you calculate that to the form, then it's a calculating form. So medical device. Thanks. I guess that's it.